I'm Terry Gilbert with Learn to Speak with Confidence. Today I want to share something that engages your audience or connects you to your audience. And if you're thinking, well, I don't have an audience, we all have an audience. You might speak on a stage or you might be in a boardroom, but your audience is whoever you're talking to. It can be your customer, it can be your secretary, it can be a spouse. But I want to give you 3 ways to hook or engage your audience. Now, what is a hook? A hook is like if you cast a rod out and you hook a fish. That's really what you're doing. You're throwing something out there and reeling that person in, connecting that person into what you're talking about, into the information you're trying to give them or the product you're trying to sell. Whatever it is you're trying to impart into them, you need to hook them in so that they're paying attention, so that they're engaged. So we call that a hook. You throw out the line and you hook them. There's a number of hooks, probably, I don't know, 15 or so I teach in one of my classes, but I want to give you 3 that are used often and they're very effective. And I'm gonna share the most important one at the end, but one way is a question. Maybe you start your presentation with a question. What if I could teach you a way that would make you debt-free in 3 years? Then everybody would be like, I'm listening. Or you could ask a question. I don't know about y'all, but it is close to lunchtime. Is anybody hungry? It makes the person have to say, he's asking a question, she's asking a question. And sometimes you want to get a question in a small audience where they could actually give you an answer back. But that's called a question to get a response or an engagement. Questions are used a lot of times to open in presentations or speeches, or even sales calls. You would maybe ask a question. Another way is a joke. Now, I don't use jokes a lot because I'm not a real funny person, so you want to be careful with that, but a joke is good, you know, but you always want to attach these hooks, the question or the joke, or they need to have a relevance to the information that you're delivering. So if you're going to make a sales call, and maybe you're going to tell a funny joke or you wouldn't tell a joke like a dumb blonde joke when there's blondes there. Or if you've got a group of men, you might tell a different joke than you would tell to some high school students. So you want to know your audience. Of course, it would need to be relevant. So a joke is another way. And if you're somewhat funny, that is very effective. Now, one thing, you don't have to know how to hook your audience in 15 ways. Find 1 or 2 ways that you're really good at and stick with that. And the last one I want to share is the best way. It is just by far one of the best ways to engage your audience. Aristotle used it, Dale Carnegie swore by it, John Maxwell, he uses this as his main, he's even written a book on it, Write Your Story, it's a story. In fact, in the Bible, it says that people are encouraged by the words of your testimony, which is your story, your personal story, which you testify to. So story is probably the best way to engage or hook your audience. Now, this is the secret as to why. Even though these masters that have gone before us knew stories were important, and we see they're very effective, it is now scientifically proven that a story connects the listener and the person telling the story in their brain. Scientists have like established this fact. They put an MRI on the person speaking and the audience that was listening, and as the person spoke, every one of the person's brains that was listening after the story was being told for a few minutes, their brains started lighting up in the same area. They call it a mind meld. What happened is they started connecting in their brains. And what happens with that is when you connect with your audience or your customer and you connect with their mind, then you can connect with their heart. So it's like the doorway in to that relationship. So stories are like such a secret way, a revelatory way for you to like connect to your audience. And if you're a salesman, I know I work with a lot of people, especially men who are busy or business women, because I work with professionals, busy professionals and entrepreneurs, and even people with a message. They don't want to spend the time to tell a story because they're all about going to the next job or next opportunity, but they're missing the mark on that. And the reason why is because when you build that relationship, that foundation is established through a story, and you start connecting your mind to this person, the next time you go to make that call, you've already got that established. It's not something you have to rebuild. It's a layering effect. You have already built that, and now your doorway in is already there. It's called trust. And that is that rapport and that relationship is already built. So I just want to encourage you to tell a story. And if you're thinking, well, I don't know a story, you'll be surprised. Get a notebook out. You have your personal story. That is really good. Testimonies are wonderful. But if you don't want to share on that intimate of a level, which is very effective, and I teach about that because vulnerability is a key to connecting to your audience. But if you're not ready to tell your personal story, it's very effective if you just tell a short story. Joel Osteen, he opens every week with a short story. He'll even say, today I want to share a story, or I heard a story about, or I heard about this man who. It's simple. It's not something you have to rehearse, and you do need to know the flow of it, but it doesn't have to be this long, drawn out, detailed, just a simple story. One thing to remember about this is you want to build hope in this story. So if it's a story that kind of had a down to it, you want to bring them and tell them the outcome so they feel hopeful. You don't want to leave them hanging like it was a horrible story and the outcome was not good. You tell the story that brings them up to a good outcome, because then they relate and they say, oh, that could happen to me, or that's an inspiring story, or it can be energizing and encouraging. So to hook your audience, there's 3 ways. Number 1 is by question. Number 2 is joke. And number 3 is story. There's a lot of other ways, but these are 3 common ways that if you just get good at really one of them, that in itself can catapult your sales, can catapult your relationships, and can give you a richer life. If this added value, if you would leave a comment below and maybe share it with a friend. And if you have questions in this area, message me on Facebook and let me know. I'll be glad to answer them. Thank you for joining today.